Welcome back. It is Robyn with Empowering Business. I'm here with Deanna. Deanna, can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Reverend Deanna Cox. I'm a United Church minister. I serve the communities of Daysland, Killam, and Roseland, and we also serve an online community called DKR United.
Wonderful. So as a minister in a small town, what are some of the challenges? Because you do have the 3 churches.
Yes. Wow. Where to start? Well, like many churches, there's struggle with financial sustainability, and not only that, but people, small communities, small churches, aging population, and so just how to engage the public or the community in a new and different ways so that we can and actually we surprisingly bump up a lot against the history of churches in general, like all the way back to the Crusades, believe it or not, because the unfortunate part is a lot of harm has been done in the name of church, residential schools, even condemning divorce, a lot around women, and like in a lot of denominations today, I would not be a lead minister, even still today. And I'm proud to say that the United Church ordained their first woman clergy in 1936.
It's a few years ago.
It is.
Yeah. It is. You know, you talked a little bit about the residential schools. I know, because I am a member of the United Church, we started the Truth and Reconciliation more than the Orange Shirt Day. We started that process of recognizing that there was wrong done and trying to acknowledge it. What is the United Church doing today in that Truth and Reconciliation to try and move forward?
Well, that varies. There's things happening at a national level and at a regional level, and then each local community of faith does their own thing. We are all encouraged to have a witness, and so I'm proud to say that we actually have one for our 3 communities that has stepped up. And so the role of the witness is to, because I'm only one person, I can't do everything. So the witness helps. They go to workshops and have training, and then it's their job to try and bring learning opportunities and things like that to our local church. So for example, this year for Truth and Reconciliation Day, which was September 30th, we hosted a movie on Bones of Crows that dealt with Indigenous residential schools and kind of beyond that, actually, since settlement, and that had a discussion. And then on the 30th, we actually had a broader discussion of some books that we had encouraged people to read. And then in the churches, in the Daysland Church, there was a display of different information and books that people could borrow to read on their own. We, not every Sunday, but we quite frequently read a land acknowledgement or incorporate some sort of acknowledgement like that in our Sunday services. And I'm trying to think. And then on a national, sort of a church level, there is a policy that a lot of people may not be aware of, but if we were, say, to sell our church building, the physical church building, there is, we are required by our church to give 10% of the proceeds to Indigenous Peoples Ministry. And so it's not a lot. I'm not saying that, but it's something. It's kind of putting our money where our mouth is, and instead of just apologizing and reading stuff, we're actually doing
and educating and learning new and trying to move forward.
Yeah.
Accepting what has happened in the past, but then now talking and educating and moving on.
Yeah.
I also know, living in a small community, and you have 3 very small communities, churches on Sunday aren't as highly attended as we would all like. I know you're doing a lot of different things other than typical church events, and you're doing more outreach and thinking forward. What are some of those ideas?
Well, we heard in one of the communities, we heard a need for hunger and loneliness, especially since the pandemic. And so somebody brought forward the idea of maybe trying a spaghetti supper. And so twice a month, we host a free spaghetti supper open to all. We've had people from like far and wide, not just from that community, come. And actually recently we had hosted a Thanksgiving dinner, because one of the days that we do this landed on Thanksgiving Monday, and we had 70 people show up. So we're finding it's really filling that need. And so I'm just trying to encourage each community to listen to the needs of their specific community, because that's one of the other challenges, is each community, although we're very close in proximity, the needs can be quite different.
Mm-hmm. And I know like Roseland will be having their roast beef dinner coming up as well.
Yep.
So there is lots of different activities going on, not Sunday at 10 o'clock every week.
And we, like I said, the movie discussion, we've kind of had like a movie series. In the past, we did one about bread, different kinds of bread. And so we even had non-church people come and teach us about, and people really, they're still talking about that bread for the journey, I think we called it. And we just had people somebody showed us how to make the Ukrainian festival bread. We made lefsa, we made different kinds of bannock, and just talked about the meaning and the history behind it for that person. And yeah, so I kind of try to, if somebody brings me an idea, I try and lean into it as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. And taking this to the business side, the church is really having to become adapting to the new times and looking as your community, where is that need? Where is that niche? Where can I serve my customers or my clients, church members the most? And looking, and
even in how we source our funding, we're having to start to think more like a small business, instead of just relying on our membership to tithe or donate. We're having to look at applying for grants and looking at our fundraising in different ways. So yes, one of my favorite courses, that's the other thing that I love about the United Church, is it encourages us to, as leaders, to embrace lifelong learning. We're given 3 weeks of continuing education. And so I use some of my time to take a spiritual entrepreneurship class. And so it's really actually is kind of, there's a lot of people that are taking their training into the business world now.
That would be a lot of fun, because it really is.
Yeah.
And everything is intertwined. And I done a podcast not that long ago about self-care, and finding your spiritual self-care is a hard part. Also, getting up to come to church on Sunday mornings is also very hard. But there's other programs, like you were saying, you have the spaghetti dinner.
And I offer midweek reflection live on Facebook as we started in COVID with that, and I kept it going because of exactly that. It's reaching a broader audience of people that, for whatever reason, Sunday morning doesn't work for them. But it's still a way to connect and to feed that spiritual side of you that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. And it's really like you adapted. You had to pivot very quickly. There was no warning that we were all going home and never coming out for a couple of years, right? But you pivoted and you found that you listened to the need. And I think that's probably one of the biggest advice that anybody can have in the business world is listening and growing and listening and growing. It's not listen, grow, stop.
And
it's keep going.
The other point is not just reacting. When COVID hit, I don't even remember the name of the program or how I found out about it, but there was a workshop on how to decide what to offer online. And I am so grateful that I took that, because they talked about the best platforms to use and how to use them. But then they also gave us permission or encouraged us to decide what was going to meet the needs of our community. And it was out of that workshop that I came up with the midweek reflection. And partly because things were changing so quickly, leaving connection with our community to like once every 7 days was too far. But I did it in a way that was sustainable for me. So, because there were some people that just leapt into it and started doing every day they were connecting, and they were burning out so quickly. And I actually have found the midweek reflection helps me prepare for Sunday, as well as connecting with people beyond the church walls. So I'm like you said about, it's not just reacting, it's finding that space to seek out the training for yourself so that you can respond in an appropriate way.
Mm-hmm. That is a really good piece, right? Like just,
and it's a business piece. It's not something you would think that a church leader would have to know. It's not something they taught me in my seminary training, because the world, like church, that's the unfortunate part, is our seminary training is still very much geared to assuming that the world is still grounded in Christianity instead of, but they're doing things to shift that, which is good.
You know, when you say shifting it, this whole new conversation of legislation and everything coming up with you're going to have to help me out here, the LGBTQ plus.
Yes, the queer community. Yes, it's actually, some people feel like they can't call it a queer community because there was a time when saying queer was awful, but it for a lot of people that has been reclaimed, and it is actually a much more appropriate word to use than to say something. I hear a lot of people that struggle with understanding all the letters just say, oh, those alphabet people, and that's hurtful. And so it's much kinder if you, because it is a lot, I'm not sure I know them all, but it's kinder to say the queer community. And so yes, carry on.
So with that, I know, because I've grown up United, the United Church actually accepted being all-inclusive and proved they were all-inclusive many more years ago than a lot of people. And I know it's a hot topic today on what is allowed. What's the United Church's stance on it?
Well, in 1988, I was still quite, well, I'm not old. I
don't think we were born yet.
No, I was. I went as a youth delegate in 1990, so that's as close as I'll get to revealing my age. But, so back in 1988, the United Church nationally made a statement that anyone, regardless of their sexual orientation, was allowed to become a minister. And kind of the grounding behind that is that accepting that we are all children of God, all created in God's image. And so at that time, it was gays and lesbians was what that was just the discussion.
It was a lot of years ago.
But now, like, that statement still stands and includes the whole queer community. It includes people of color. And so we have a process called affirming that churches, so nationally, the United Church of Canada, like I said, accepts all people. It is up to each individual community of faith to make a statement of their choosing. And so so this process called affirming is for each community of faith. It's like a 2-year kind of educational process, because we want to bring people along, not just make a decision and have a lot of unsettled, like, because the United Church is not, people, we're not necessarily as dogmatic or doctrinal. So we have everybody in a broad spectrum of beliefs in our church. And so it's very important to bring people along when you're making any sort of decision, from small things to something like this. And so this affirming process, but it's not just for the queer community, it's for people of color, for people with disabilities, for people neurodiverse. I think that's the proper term. So it's being a safe place for everyone, which is a challenging thing to do.
You know, I always thought it would be an easy thing. We're all people, we're all humans. Let's just move forward and let's walk together. It's one world, one type of person. You're a person, end of story. But it's really not.
No.
It is very complex and difficult. It's really nice to know that the United Church offers such a safe place for everybody. Doesn't matter your color, your beliefs, your sexuality.
Yeah. I'm reading a book right now by Lillian Daniel, and she says it really well in there. She said that we're all messy people. We're not perfect. We're all messy people. So when we have community, of course it's going to be messy, because if I'm a messy person and you're a messy person, when we're trying to be together, we're going to have,
we're just a really hot, big messy.
And so, yes, that's another challenge of doing ministry, is that even though a lot of our communities, we have some sameness around, you know, a lot of us have lived here for quite a long time. A lot of us know what life in rural Alberta is like. So we have kind of a base of sameness, but there's also differences. And in the United Church, that's okay, but that makes it like there's times where they come up, and then how do you have to remember, okay, I am created in God's image and so are you. And I think it can be similar in business, but I think that's also a uniqueness to the church. And specifically to the United Church, a uniqueness, because if God loves everybody, that means that God also loves somebody who thinks very differently than me. And in a business, you have a little, like if somebody comes in and starts ranting, you have a little more authority to say, that's inappropriate.
Not here, please leave.
Where I'm like, yes, and God loves you.
That could definitely make some situations, I'm sure, very challenging.
It can, yeah.
Yeah. But it is a very different take that the United Church has taken for a lot of years on being what is inclusive and what does that actually mean, and to walk it. They don't just say everybody is welcome, come on in. They are encouraging it and wanting everybody to just be treated as humans, listen to each other, to listen to hear to listen. Doesn't mean you have to agree, but you still have to be kind to each other. Yep. And I think that's a really big point that is often lost, especially like not only in the spiritual world, but even in the business world.
Yep.
We listen to what everybody else is talking about and
encouraging, like in that book, she says, Lillian Daniel, the author, says, God loves us as we are and encourages us to move beyond that. And I think that that's very much, other than our creed, I think I love that statement.
It's a really good statement. And I hope to see that the church keep doing some outreach programs and moving forward out of the typical Sunday services and involving more for our youth and our families and our seniors, because there is a huge need. I know you've done the spaghetti dinners and the movies, which I've attended a few. Deanna, if people are interested in getting to find you and the churches you serve, how would they do that?
So another gift of the pandemic, we sort of streamlined that into something that you can find us at. So if you search up DKR United, so Daysland, Killam, Roseland, DKR United .ca is our website. We are DKR United on Facebook and YouTube. And so you can find our midweek reflections on Facebook and YouTube, and we advertise a lot there, and our website.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you.